Reflections with Rhonda Jones and my co-host Monica Livingston, who, by the way, just turned 40 2 days ago, FYI. Also, our panel today is Kimberly Johnson and Ruthie Wyburn. Obviously, you know these ladies, and you know that they have strong opinions. They may be subtle in speech and soft in speech, I should say, but you know, ladies have opinions, strong opinions, and I like that. I like that about ladies. And we have one specific person in the audience today who has very strong opinions that we're going to try to get her on our show in the near future. Her name is Stephanie, just so you know. Put you out there in Never Never Land, and so.
Reeling her in.
We're going to reel her in. Today we're going to talk about some things that we've seen over Facebook, Yahoo, the news, our own personal travels during the week. And we're going to start with something I thought was really, really strange. A lady from, I don't know what town, because I tell you all this all the time, I make up the details of stories, but let's just pretend she's from Tennessee or somewhere like that. Okay, she wants to establish paternity for one of her children. Okay, that's a good thing. Kind of sad that you would have to do that, but it's a good thing to have it established. Okay, my opinion. So she takes this before the court, the judges, and she named the baby like Messiah Deshawn Martin, which was her maiden name. And I guess she wanted to put the father's name on the birth certificate, so she had to say, yes, you were the baby daddy. Okay. The judge decided to change the baby's first name. What? How is that right, that a judge can change your... Because the baby's name was Messiah, and that was just too...
What does that having to do with paternity?
Well, during the course of paternity and adding the baby's daddy...
God wasn't the daddy, so he can't be Messiah.
I guess so. Must have been a child of God, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, Messiah was too sacred to have for a first name. But actually, statistics show that the name Messiah is up and coming. It's like, you know, I don't know, 4th or 5th in the newly trending baby names.
Right up there with Northwest.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, North.
North.
West is
North. I think they're going to call them North.
I think it's a girl, too.
Oh, is it?
Is it a girl? Really?
I don't remember.
No, what? Is it a girl? Is Kanye and Kim Kardashian's baby a girl?
All I know is the name was Northwest.
I think it's a girl.
Okay.
But
that was kind of like my dad wanting to name me Rose, and my maiden name was Bush. Thanks, Mom.
That's gross.
Thanks, Mom.
I've got one better. My aunt, which is my dad's sister, she had twins on George Washington's birthday, February 22nd, and she wanted to name them, if they were boy and girl, George and Martha. That is not right. But let's get back to the subject at hand.
Well,
how does this happen?
I guess the name Messiah is sacred, but they don't think the
It's
name
not sacred
Jesus
to
is
everybody.
sacred.
Yeah, Hispanics, Jesus is very common in the Hispanic world.
And I've also, I believe it was this past year, there was a kindergarten class, and one of the teachers said, "Do you pronounce this Jesus?" And the mom said, "No, the name was actually Jesus."
Yeah.
They didn't pronounce it Jesus.
Well, it's a name. I mean, and as far as Messiah goes, Ruthie, what do you think? Yay or nay?
Well, I wouldn't name mine that for the simple reason the child would probably have a lot of hardships growing up. He would be teased, or she would be, he, I guess, would be teased about having that name. So I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with it, but that,
I don't see
that's
changing
just
it
my
for
opinion.
religious reasons.
I don't
You know,
see
so-
how the judge has any kind of precedent to change it. What was his reasoning other than he thinks it's sacred?
I believe
What
it was a
legal
woman.
precedents? What legal precedents does she have? What law does she stand on to say, I'm changing this baby's name?
I don't think there is
Is it in
one.
Switzerland?
This is what she says. She says the word take my glasses off to read. She says the word Messiah is a title, and it's a title I'm just reading it like it's written because it's crazy. And it's a title has only been earned by one person, and that one person is Jesus Christ. And then she had this ceramic figurine of Joseph and Mary with baby Jesus on her desk, and that's fine for her. That's fine for
but
her.
It has nothing to do with her authority as a judge, though.
No, I mean, you can put personal things on your desk if that's what you want. You know what I'm saying? She had a copy of the Ten Commandments hung on her wall in her office. You know, it is a public office paid for with, you know, public tax paying things, but I'm still okay if that's, but you don't take your thoughts and feelings like that and project them on this poor woman who wants her baby to be called Messiah.
Yeah, I vote we change Christian's name. What do you think?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's a
Atheist.
title of a group, you know?
That's
So,
true.
I think this was too far.
You know, and there is not a precedence for this, but believe it or not, a number of countries actually have rules
Yes.
about
Switzerland.
which are acceptable baby names, and so some of them you can't, and like in Iceland, you can't name them such and such. You know, I can't pronounce any Icelandic words, so I'm not going to even start now.
Well, let's see, try at
No,
least.
no. I know, was it Reykjavik, whatever is a. Anyway, so you can't do that in some, but the director of the ACLU of Tennessee is going to be, I'm sure, all over this. It says parents, not the government, have the right to name a child. Duh. The judge cannot impose her faith on those who come into her courtroom.
That's right.
And that's absolutely positively,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Because that seems like what she did. I mean, this is a title from the religion that she was brought up in or chooses or whatever the case may be, and then she's ruling that this title can't be used as a name for a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
because it's
not that
sacred.
business.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
the
it's
thing.
sacred.
Yeah, but the lady said, really, that's not the reason I chose that. She said it just sounds good with the names of my other two sons, Micah and Mason and Messiah. And, you know, I guess it does. She's obviously appealing the decision. And she said, I never intended on that, naming my son Messiah because it means God. And I didn't think a judge can make me change my baby's name because of her religious beliefs. And no, she should not be able to.
Who knew?
So that was something I thought was way out there this week. Anybody else have anything they thought was a little on the cray side?
Okay, side. Well, I did see, and I think I sent you the link. It was an article about a Muslim man who viciously burns his daughter to death because of her Facebook relationships.
That's crazy.
Lots of parents, it said, have problems with their children and how much time they spend on Facebook and, you know, ways they communicate, pictures they put up there, what have you. But the daughter was not living at home. She was living away, and he discovered that she had boyfriends. And she shamed him and shamed her family. She was living at a woman's hotel or hostel, as it said in the original thing I read. But she was having some financial issues, and he told her to come home. And then he went out and bought some flammable liquid for the specific purpose of murdering his daughter. He got her up on the rooftop, squirted over the liquid, and set her ablaze.
My gosh. What country is that in? Sounds like India or
Well,
Pakistan. I hate to, you know,
Yeah.
stereotype these countries, but we hear from those
Jerusalem district
countries. Jerusalem
is where
district.
the attorney was, filed charges, so I guess it would be over there. But apparently his daughter shamed him, shamed the family,
Because she had male friends on Facebook.
supposedly male relationships. And it says that it's common for the head of the family in such cultures, and this is an honor culture, to keep such a standard of honor, and if anybody in the family deviates from it, they can, you know, besmirch it. They can decide how to deal with that person, including, and a lot of it, only way to do it is murdering the person.
But like that's the higher standard than having some boyfriends. Just be able to murder your child,
Yeah.
That's-
grown child.
That's crazy for sure.
Yeah, so that was pretty out there, but we know this kind of stuff goes on. I saw a link a few
Unfortunately.
weeks ago about a 11-year-old girl, and she was riding in a car, and she was speaking in her native tongue, and there were translations to it, and she was saying how it was crazy, but her mom was trying to marry her off at 11 years old. And she's like, what have we kids done? What have we done wrong? You know, she goes, I'd rather drown myself in the sea.
Yeah.
And she
yeah,
said,
me
wasn't
too.
You
her,
know?
her older sister had killed herself.
Yeah, I think,
Oh.
yeah,
Because
an
of
older
the
sister or an
marriage.
older cousin or something had killed herself
She'd
because
been
of
beaten
marriage.
so many times in the marriage that she took her own life, and the little girl was saying, I'm not going, I'm not doing it. But she was able to flee to a male relative, and he protected her.
Yes.
Wow.
So
What
that
country?
was, I do not remember.
I cannot remember either. I don't have the link pulled up, but you know, it just reminded me that there's so many things, stories like this that we see in these other cultures. So, and most of them seem to be all religiously motivated. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not just a problem in America with the, you know, Christian religion or
No.
Catholic, Protestant, whatever denominations. It's across the world that there's such indoctrination, you know, that people's lives are just at risk and, you know, and harm, and, you know, kids being married off at a young age so that they can, you know, continue the family, and this is, you know, kind of like expected, and it's a lot of it is, like I said, because of the religion. So.
Do you remember that story that we told a while back about the girl that was graduating from college, and then it was strange because I think it was in India or Pakistan, I think India, but she got to go to college first instead of, or at all, instead of her older brother, and then she was raped and I think murdered, left on the side of the road, killed. So they're getting the hint. When I say they, you know, people in other cultures are coming to some knowledge of what I call civilization, that you don't burn your children when they disgrace you, because you're going to be disgraced by your children. Let's just be honest. I mean, they're
That's
going
gonna
to
happen.
they're going to upset you. They're going to possibly embarrass you or whatever. But you know, when they get a certain age, I don't, you know, I care what they do, but I'm like, that's on you. You know, you're grown, and I have another saying, but I won't say it now. I don't take responsibility for that. That's on you. Don't you think that way too, Ricky?
Oh, yes, once your child becomes an adult, they're responsible for what they do. You taught them one way, and they may go completely the other, but that's their choice, not mine, you know, and I just, you know, let them go.
Yep.
They'll see where they're wrong and bump their knee or something and straighten out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about that too. I really am. It doesn't mean that I don't think about them or think, you know, I'm really thinking you should have done this or that, or it probably would have worked out better for you to do it this way. But go for it. I never give advice like and tell them you should do this and that. If you ask me for advice, I'm gonna give it to you. Otherwise, I might like raise my eyebrows, or because that's what I'm accused of all the time. Like when our son John got married in Utah, in a Catholic church, you know, he was like, "Mom, you promised me, don't you like roll your eyes when they say this or that, or if we have to do something, don't you say nothing." And I'm like, I will be my very best behavior. I promise you. And even when I don't even mean to, sometimes in conversation, my face just really tells everything, and I'll do something, and then they're always looking to see, you know, how I'm reacting. So it's a hard knock life sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're a mother. What about you, Kimberly? How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
Oh gosh, I got a 19-year-old that thinks he's grown, and we had a talk with him yesterday, and he's so out there, you know, trying to keep him focused on something and explain something to him, because you would prefer, or I'm assuming, everyone here would prefer that your children learn from your mistakes and accept the fact that you can see a bigger picture than they can. 'Cause
Right.
you don't want them to have to learn the hard way. But that boy is determined that he's going to learn the hard way.
I often wonder about that. You know, if and I always say this too, if I could take one child and just tell them everything to do this, do that, don't, you know, and if they did everything I said, would their life turn out so much better? Because I know the pitfalls, I know the mistakes,
Yeah.
or is that how they really learn? By just making these crazy mistakes that they've seen everybody make, but they're going to fall in the same ditch everybody else fell into. Why can't one of them at least see it? But they don't. I don't know of any that have seen it.
You know, I don't know.
They may have seen it, but I'm different from the person that
Right.
made the mistake, so I won't do the same thing.
Yeah,
Right, and
you
I
know.
think that's
And
it.
that's
It's-
probably not true, but that's a mindset.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's it, because I can remember, 20 years ago, thinking that even though I knew the mistakes of my parents and I'd seen mistakes of older cousins and different things, that I still had the answers and, I could find my own way and,
Oh, yeah, if
it
you-
took some heartache
need
and
to
it
know
took some hard
something-
knocks till you,
Mhm.
got a little bit older, and then it's like, man, now I know why mom said this, or, family, friends said things, and you think back, if I'd have listened to this,
yeah. What would,
older and wiser.
Yeah.
so the conversation, did it turn out like, I know what I'm doing?
Yeah, if you need to know something, you can ask him because he knows everything. He knows everything. And,
Yeah,
and we finally,
They do.
I just said, look, when you have a kid of your own and you got a few years, we'll revisit this conversation, okay?
Yeah, things change then. It really does. Oh, kids. Can't live with them, can't live without them.
That's true. Wouldn't want to live without them,
No, not at all.
even when you want to half choke them. But
Yeah, that's true. It's always like the shovel. I got something about a shovel in somebody's head that I don't know if I'm ever gonna. It's gonna be a shovel on the head. Why do I keep reliving that shovel head? Shovel? Okay, Ruthie brought something to my attention this week. An article she saw in the newspaper, and after I read it, I'm kind of on the fence by it. In a small way, but do you want to go over it first, or
No, because I read it like
Just
a week and a half
quickly.
ago or
I
something,
got
so.
you. Okay. Well, this is what it is. There was a coach of must have been a Christian football team. Okay. He and his family loved going to this one particular church, but he was the coach in a Christian school of a football team. So they wanted him to go to their church. The church and the school were interconnected, as they always are. And he didn't like the church that was connected to the school. So he and his family kept going to their home church. So people started
did
talking.
try it.
Yeah, they did try.
And I think he was also promoted, if I remember, from just being coach to being like athletic director over all those.
That's true.
So there were a few things that were in there.
Yeah, that doesn't make a difference. They went to the early service of one church, then they would hustle to the opposite direction and go to the other church so they could, check the check mark off to be there. But then he got to thinking, it's not right. I don't want to be at this church, and it's ridiculous. So he had to resign. He went to a meeting with the pastor, and he thought that everything would be fine. He could share his heart and why he felt this way, but come to find out, they were not having any of it. And so he didn't have to, but he resigned from being the athletic director at this Christian school just so he could go to his church that he wanted to go to.
Another thing I read in that article is that it was not written in his contract. So, I mean, it seems like it might have been understood before, but it wasn't something that they wrote into his contract for him to do. So, do they really have the grounds to fire him? I mean, he did resign.
Yeah.
he didn't want to make a fuss, but at the same time, you know, this is his livelihood of supporting his family. So, yeah, I thought it was a kind of a stink, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
thing to,
At first, when they started going through that, I thought, well, if it's in his contract and you knew it,
Yeah, you're stuck.
you're stuck. But you know, you knew it.
should have read the fine print
That's
before he
right.
signed.
But then it says they reached out to the church and the school and asked, you know, what is in your employee contracts? Does it say they have to go to your church? And they said, this is their response was, well, it's very confidential, the contracts that we have with our employees. Well, we didn't want to know how much you made, or, you know.
Yeah, just answer the one question.
Answer the one
Right.
question, is it in there? But they wouldn't even do that. So I couldn't tell if it was in it or not. If it's in it,
No.
I'm saying, sorry, you should have known.
Yeah.
If it's not, maybe you should have sense enough to expect that you would have to go there, but you shouldn't have to choose between your job and the church you want to attend.
Right.
And that was my thing is going in to a church school environment where he's teaching for, you know, a school that has a church affiliated with it. I think that he would have to know that they would want him to be affiliated with that faith or that denomination or that particular church. It looks better for them. But at the same time, they knew when they hired him, he wasn't a member of their congregation. And I do believe that if they had wanted that to be the case, that, hey, you have to be a member here, then they should have looked within their membership. They shouldn't have hired him, or they should have put it in the contract so that he was bound by it.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that he didn't raise his stink. You know, I think that, you know, he probably just decided, hey, you know, it's not worth it. I can find another job. But at the same time, having to give up your livelihood of how you're making your living for your family and providing for your family in order to believe and worship and serve God where you choose to do it, or if you choose to do it, you know?
Well, I could sort of disagree about the stink because we all know about it, so it wasn't like it was hush hush. I don't know how it came out. Do you?
No.
I mean,
No, I don't either.
But I mean, he didn't say, well, you know, you can't fire me and take him to court.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by his stink.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, obviously, the word did get out.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
question that came to my mind when I was reading it was, did everyone who worked at that school
Good point.
go to the same church that the coach was being pushed toward? Did everyone who worked at that school go to the church the school was affiliated with?
It's a good point.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but that was the first question that came to my mind.
Yeah, that didn't enter my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
a good
it
question,
is.
and I didn't think about it before either.
Well, everybody that reads something gets a different view from it. We got rats up here.
got something going crazy. Maybe it's from the spirits
One of
you
the
guys
spirits
brought up.
Oh,
I
you've
tell you,
offended the spirit.
I'm telling y'all, I went to that thing and I might have brought one of those earthbound things up here.
Well, they had that
I'll go
that
get the salt one.
guy that is
Yes.
a psychic on The View this past week. The Shar and then what Tom
John Edwards? No.
John Edwards. That's right.
Oh, did they?
They had them on The View this week, and I think it was a whole hour they devoted to it.
That's wild. It's some wild
Reading
stuff.
different audience guests and stuff. It reminded me of our show last week when we were talking about your little experience, and you know, it was similar. And they were saying how they're really good at reading people. What they said they do actually get sort of premonitions of future events and different things.
Maybe so. I told y'all I get this like precognition, like something will. I mean, I just know something's going to happen. Like all of a sudden, Willie Nelson will pop in my head, and then I'll say, "What does that mean?" I don't. I'm not good at pinning it down. But then it won't be a day or two. You know, Willie Nelson has a stroke, or you know, just something. It's really crazy how it works in my mind. I don't know. I don't know the answer to all that stuff. But anywho, are we ready for that clip? Is it all set and prepped? Monica has something to discuss that has a clip with it, and I'll let her go ahead and do the pre-work here.
Well, actually, I had just come across this, and I thought it was just interesting what was stated. It was a gentleman that most of us have probably at least heard of if we don't know a lot about him, Ashton Kutcher, famous actor, was asked to give an award speech and award at the Teen Choice Awards. And he did. And what he said was, I thought was pretty good. And it went viral, the video of it now, because he actually spoke and really was encouraging to the younger generation. So I liked what he had to say, and I hope maybe our viewers will too.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right. If we have the clip, let's roll it.
Gonna have to rewind it. We're gonna have to start it over. We're working on the bugs here of playing the clips, but we're glad we're able to do this for you. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In case you missed it, which
Try
I
again. Here we
presume
go.
All
you
right,
missed
here we
it.
go again.
I can't hear him.
All right, sorry. Stop it, start it over. Give us a little bit of time.
All right,
Okay.
No trouble. No trouble.
We can go back to that if you want.
Yes, let's absolutely go back to it.
Well, another thing I saw this week, it was actually posted on the Cult of Honesty Facebook page, and it was posted by a gentleman, I assume it's a gentleman, Shup.
Yeah, Shup.
And I have not validated that this is an actual tribe in Africa, or what tribe it is in Africa, but I still like the story, and I'm going to read it. I think it's really good. It says, an African tribe does the most beautiful thing. When someone does something hurtful and wrong, they take the person to the center of the town, and the entire tribe comes and surrounds him. For 2 days, they'll tell the man, or woman, I'm assuming, every good thing he has ever done. The tribe believes that every human being comes into the world as good, each of us desiring safety, love, peace, and happiness, but sometimes in the pursuit of these things, people make mistakes. The community sees misdeeds as a cry for help, so they band together for the sake of their fellow man to hold him up, to reconnect him with his true nature and to remind him of who he really is, until he fully remembers the truth from which he temporarily disconnected. And it says, I am good. And I thought that was wonderful. Even if it isn't a true story about a true tribe in Africa, I still think the premise there of building people up instead of tearing them down. And I read an article that went along with this on a separate Facebook page when I was trying to verify the tribe, that stated that we're not too different in the Western culture, except it's the reverse. Because of religion, we're taught there's a sinful nature and that people are bad and they have this, sin nature and they act out of this sinful nature, and that we have to do something to get to the state of righteousness or good. And so, we return people that do wrong to a system of justice, the prison system, to be around other people that are bad, wrong. And so it's almost the reverse. And it said, it's just so different, but, yet not too far removed, it's like
Yeah.
polar opposite. So what do y'all think about that?
I don't know. Maybe it's Kimberly.
I think they have a much better system than we do, if it's true. I'd like to find out if it's true or not.
Yeah. I wanted
what
to find
else.
out if it was true or not.
I think it's great. I mean,
Still working on it.
be something to do with your kids, I would think, the next time they do something that they're acting out or snatch their sister's toy or something. Maybe sit them down and tell them how wonderful they are, and they don't have to act that way because they're a good person. Maybe.
Right. Yeah. I think that might have a lot of credence to it.
Yeah, I think we should all do that.
I think so too. I really do.
Anytime you start to think something bad about somebody, you should stop and search for something good, and then your perception of that person will be better.
Yeah.
And you'll treat them better too. My daughter says everybody's born the same, they just lose their way. And that's the way she feels about a lot of people, Hitler included. She
Yeah.
said he was just like we are, he just lost his way.
Yeah. I feel that
So-
way too. I really do. I think that's wise of her. I saw where, like, if your children are fighting with each other, that you have this extra big shirt. If you get one of your husband's shirts, and you put both of the children in the shirt, and one has the arm and one has the arm, and you make them stay in that shirt, and just for like 15 minutes or whatever. And I think that's cool. Just force them together instead of separating them. Separation never solves anything.
Right.
So, force them together, and, either they'll give each other a black eye, or they'll learn that, you're just not so bad. So,
My parents used to do something similar. I think we used to have to hug, and then I think for a one period of time it was sit on the couch facing each other, or sit on the floor facing each other for a period of time. We could figure out how to work it out, or at least fool our parents into thinking we were going to get along for a little while longer.
Yeah, I heard something similar, but it was with adults, like a married couple that just keep arguing and arguing, tie two of their hands together, and they have to go for a whole week with those two hands tied together, do everything that they normally do with those two hands tied together, stand at the sink, brush your teeth at the same time, and I
One
don't
of
know how
them
they
might be
managed to
alive.
dress and undress with them tied, but they had to
Wow.
do everything for a week with their hands tied together. So they had to use both hands to open a jar of mayonnaise or whatever. And I thought they had either learned to like each other or they'd kill each other,
or
And
gnaw their wrist off so they get away from 'em.
but I thought, that just might work. So
Yeah, I think that those are some great ideas, but whether the story is true, I don't know if it's the Watusi tribe and
Yeah, it
Ouagadougou.
did not give a name of a tribe. I even Googled it several different ways.
tried
and
Snopes and
yeah, tried to look on Snopes and several different things to see if I could verify whether it was an actual story or factual story. Because in some of the comments are like, really, this was an uncivilized. A lot of the areas uncivilized, and their beliefs are this, and so.
That's really prejudicial, I think.
Yeah, and my thought was, I'm not so hung up on it being an actual factual story. When I read it, I jumped to, oh my gosh. But I would like to verify if this is actually going on in a tribe over in Africa or another country, even if it was in Africa. I still think it's something that's worth doing versus just
right.
landblasting somebody for doing wrong.
Yeah, exactly right.
Lifting the person up and reminding them, hey, you've messed up, but look at all you've done right.
Right. I think more people do more things right than they do wrong. If you find somebody that does more things wrong, then that might be one of the people that your daughter's talking about. They've just lost their way, or they're really mentally ill, or they're just purity mean. You know what I'm saying? Some people are just doggone it. They're just mean. Okay, we're gonna try the Ashton Kutcher clip once more.
Good?
Yep.
I feel like a fraud. My name is actually not even Ashton. Ashton is my middle name. My first name's Chris. And it always has been. It got changed when I was like 19 and I became an actor. But there were some really amazing things that I learned when I was Chris. And I wanted to share those things with you guys because I think it's helped me be here today. So first, opportunity. I believe that opportunity looks a lot like hard work. When I was 13, I had my first job with my dad carrying shingles up to the roof. And then I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant. And then I got a job in a grocery store deli. In a factory sweeping Cheerio dust off the ground. And I've never had a job in my life that I was better than. I was always just lucky to have a job. And every job I had was a stepping stone to my next job. And I never quit my job until I had my next job. And so opportunities look a lot like work. The sexiest thing in the entire world is being really smart. And being thoughtful. And being generous. Everything else is crap, I promise you. The third thing is something that I just relearned when I was making this movie about Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs said, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way that it is. And that your life is to live your life inside the world and try not to get in too much trouble and maybe get an education and get a job and make some money and have a family. But life can be a lot broader than that when you realize one simple thing. And that is that everything around us that we call life was made up by people that are no smarter than you. And you can build your own things. You can build your own life that other people can live in. So build a life. Don't live one, build one.
So what y'all think of the clip?
Good advice, good advice.
Yeah, especially for an audience full of, our future of America sitting there that think, the Kardashians are people to emulate. And I'm not,
Spears.
and Britney
All the
Spears.
rest of
Yeah,
them.
I don't take anything away from the Kardashians. I think they are hard workers. I'm not saying they start out being that hard of workers, but now they have to keep it going, and they are. They are talented in so many areas, but most people, they don't have anybody to come dress them and do their hair for hours and put all the makeup on and help them eat right and fix their food and take care of their kids, and most people don't have that. And he's trying to say the sexy thing in life isn't all that. It's being smart and trying to do something bigger than yourself and being kind and generous, and those things are very attractive.
Yeah.
Kindness and then the other stuff is just gravy, if you have it, I guess.
Right. And I like that he used the word crap there, that the other things are crap, because so many people put so much stock in having money or having, a certain type of car, a certain type of home, having, the most expensive of clothes or handbags or what have you, their looks. Looks come and go, you never know when something's going to happen that could change the way you look drastically, such as being burnt or, having some kind of surgery or an accident. Change your status financially, losing a job or a divorce or, just a crazy life, things happen. And I really like the fact that he said no job, he was better than no job. I think for some people, especially young adults, teenagers, as they come up, they think that if they can't attain to a certain level or say they're going for a degree and they don't get a job in that field, they may feel like a failure. But if they listen to something like this that's talking about you take steps, and you may be working on your degree, but you may be working at McDonald's, and you may work at McDonald's for 6 years when you've had your degree for 2, but something may happen. You take steps and you build on one step to the next till you build the life you want, but don't put so much stock in, everything else. Thoughtful, generous, and smart.
Right.
And I thought those were good qualities. And so I really liked what he had to say.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty good. And another thing I liked is he didn't come out there all played up. If that was someone like Britney Spears and, these other celebs coming on something like this, they're going to be like all made up and, glitz and glam. He seems more down to earth. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I've never really cared for his body of work or him or, but that really impressed me that, he gave that advice, Maybe some of those kids in the audience, they'll take it.
Yeah, and we need to realize that we're all born with certain talents. Sometimes we're 40 years old before we know what they are, or 50,
That's true.
and but they're there. All you have to do is learn what they are. And you can't just sit and twiddle your thumbs and learn. You have to get out there and try different things.
That's right. That's right. You know, sometimes if you just tell somebody, you know what, when you sing, it sounds so pretty, and then they may think they sound horrible or nobody's ever complimented them, then they say, wow, somebody believes in me. And so what you speak to young people means all the world to them, you know, and that also on the other side of that, that means if you say something to them that really hurts and cuts deep, they won't ever forget it.
Right.
I guarantee you. I mean, because I probably remember more things said to me that hurt me than I do that have helped me. You know, sad to say, but you just seem to never, ever forget it when we should. But it's not a human thing to do, is to forget that. And so let's go out and I really want to encourage people that are watching this to say something positive like Ashton did to teenagers, to grown people, to 80-year-olds, because as Ruthie was saying, it's never too late to tap into those talents that you have and to try something different, you know, compliment somebody in an appropriate way. And you can see the difference. Some of the kids that come around here, I think about it a lot. I need to do more of it, but we need to just pick one and just give them some truth and something positive to hang their hat on and say, you know what, you're very good at this. Like Jonathan got the science award, and you know, most people would think that he wouldn't achieve such a high standard because he comes from a broken home. He's a minority. He's in a lower socioeconomic class, community too, but he got the highest possible in science, and that's not something, you know, usually children from that demographic attain. And so we need to say, you know, you're very good in science, keep it up, do something. I mean, he could invent anything or have the cure for cancer, we don't know. And all of y'all's children, I mean, just, and I believe y'all do, but say something positive. We are quick to say this, that, but give them these words of life. And I do believe what the Bible says about this, and whether somebody decided to make it up in the 5th century, I don't care. But you know what? The words out of our mouth are life or death, because we can kill somebody with them metaphorically, or we can just bring them to life and make them feel great. And so I can't think of anything hardly any other person has ever said, but that right there, straight out of the good book, that means a lot to people. And so practice it. Whether you believe it was divinely inspired or not is up to you. But I do believe the words that come out of our mouth are life or death to people. And so just try it. Try to be life to somebody. All right, Bob, why don't you close us out with some words of just... Why don't you give Ruthie some words of life?
Listen
She's
to
so
your
full
mother.
of life.
She really is. Ruthie,
We need her to tell us words of
That's the
life.
truth.
Listen to your mother.
Okay.
Okay, wow, we
That-
heard that.
That's advice you pass on.
Okay, that's
Okay.
right.
Say, Miss Ruthie said.
I'm
I
gonna
see.
You're gonna
use
turn to
that.
Rhonda and tell her, Rhonda, turn.
There you go.
Listen to your mother. Okay, I see. She's not really saying for you to listen to your mother
But
per
that's
se,
the
Pass that
life,
advice on.
words of
That's-
life that I can pass on to someone
To
else.
someone else.
Right,
Listen
right.
to your mother. Yeah, my mother was hardly ever wrong. You know, now that I'm older, I can see where she was wrong in some things, but the older I get, I'm thinking I'm more like her. I'm like, oh my goodness. When you look in the mirror and you start seeing your mother in the mirror, you just freak out. And then when you start acting like her, you freak out even more. But I'm at that age where I've become my own mother. And so it's a blessing and a curse. And I do love you, Mom. And you were right about 90% of everything you've ever said. But the other 10% were really big things that you were dead wrong.
I was waiting for that.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. And maybe we'll have our outspoken panelists with us. So we'll try. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Like,